Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of Around the World in 80 Stays. I'm your host, Sean Keane. I'm here today with the wonderful Anna O'Connor. As always, she's going to introduce herself and where she studied.
My name is Anna O'Connor. I'm a third year at the University of Iowa studying international studies and social work and a minor in Spanish. And I had the opportunity to study abroad in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
All right. So first and foremost, why studying abroad? What brought you there? And then what brought you to Argentina?
So I had always wanted to study abroad. It was something that, ever since I was in high school, I really was globally minded. I really just it kind of began because I wanted to get out of Iowa, really.
It do be like that sometimes.
But yeah, I always had that perspective, and I have very supportive parents. They always wanted me to take every opportunity I could get, and I don't know, my dad was always encouraging us to, and I think it's kind of interesting that I always had that global perspective because I have two way older brothers and they never studied abroad, but also were very active politically or social movements and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of what drew me to international issues, and also just I think it was a really interesting time that we grew up in that drew us into the international sphere.
And so then why Argentina?
Yeah. So I was really back and forth on Argentina. I was kind of a little nervous about the prospect of Latin America. I had only been to two other countries previous to this. So I went to Spain my senior year of high school, the summer after that, for just a week-long high school trip with some friends, and also through my school. And then I also had the opportunity to travel to China for a youth festival that was taking place. So those were kind of my only very unique international experiences. And so I was planning on going back to Spain, but then I eventually settled on Argentina.
Well, I want to, first of all, China for a youth festival,
Yeah. It was an opportunity that was presented through someone in Muscatine who had a sister city connection and offered this opportunity to local college students and young professionals. So we got an email and we were just like, why not? So
Hey, you want to go to China?
Yeah.
You know what? That's not a bad gig. And of course, shout outs to one of my favorite pieces of Iowa lore of Xi Jinping just coming to Muscatine, Iowa.
Yes.
What was it, in the 90s?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Friendship House.
And the Friendship House, just yeah, sure,
Still
why
stands.
not? Yeah. Shout outs to the Friendship House of Muscatine, Iowa with China. It's two very random places, but I love it. So back to Argentina, though.
Yes.
And deciding on Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
Why Argentina over, you had said, maybe going back to Spain,
Mm-hmm.
or even the other programs that we have? Because I know we have programs that go to Chile. I know we have
Mm-hmm.
programs that go to Uruguay. Why Argentina specifically?
Yeah, so I kind of saw Argentina as maybe just a middle step into exploring a more Latin American culture because of its European influence. But I also think that I was looking at Uruguay for a really long time. I originally had planned to go there because I think I did a project on Uruguay my sophomore year of high school, and I was really, I don't know, just kind of excited about the prospect of, oh, it's this cute little tiny country, a little teardrop shape with a cool flag.
It rocks. Uruguay rocks.
Yeah, it is really cool. So I was originally planning on going there. Looked into the program a little more. It seemed like it was more independent, university focused. And then I was looking at SIT programs, and I just found the one in Buenos Aires. It was called Social Movements and Human Rights, which really just ties in both of my majors perfectly in what I want to do in the long run. So I eventually ended up picking that program for a more tight-knit community, and also because of that specific aspect.
Well, and being in Buenos Aires, too, for social movements, human rights, that's a great place to do case studies, to do work with that, to really be boots on the ground for a region that probably doesn't get as much coverage as it should for its past of social movements, human rights, both good and bad sides of that. My other thing that I wanted to talk to you about was your program, the specific program, because when I first met you and you had said you had studied abroad in Buenos Aires, I assumed that it was just a normal quote unquote kind of, you guys were at a university, you just happened to be in Buenos Aires, you took your classes, boom, done, part of a program. But when you described it to me, this program is very unique sounding and very different sounding to other study abroad programs and experiences. So talk to us just in general about the program and how everything kind of works and is set up.
Yeah, so SIT is kind of coined for being quote unquote not your ordinary study abroad. Our main director, Ana Laura, she was awesome. She kind of quoted that a lot because of just these.
Was she paid to?
I don't think so, but we had the best staff. We had 4 like strong, independent women who were taking us under their wing. They were so caring. And we called them Las Chicas, and it was great. I think that was a big part of it too. Like, they were so central in our program, which I don't think a lot of people get. But yeah, I was with my cohort of about 23 people all the time for classes. We went on 2 excursions as well, one to the north and one to the south, which I'm sure we can get into later. And yeah, so it was very social movements and human rights focused. Like, that's what drove our program. And we would have lecturers come in to our classrooms to talk about, we had social movements in Argentina, history and social movements in Argentina, and then human rights, history, and then human rights and social movements. So it all kind of tied together. And we would have different lecturers come from University of Buenos Aires and other like notable figures come in and talk to our classes. And it kind of worked as more of an experiential type of learning instead of being placed in a university.
So you were kind of like living one giant TED Talk for an entire semester, specifically focused on different aspects of human rights and social movements within Argentina specifically, or other places in Latin America?
It was specifically Argentina too. There was tie-ins with the history, of course, as there always is, but it was very Argentina focused, yeah.
And your cohort, were they all U.S. students, or were there students from around? Because again, I don't know this program very well,
Yeah.
so...
Yeah, it was all U.S. students, which was very interesting. I don't know, talking to my other friends who have studied abroad and like how they have their friends, like their international friends. I was like, that's so interesting because it was such a different experience. A lot of East Coasters. I don't know if that was the same for you on your program, but we had so many East Coasters. I was the only person from the Midwest. The closest person was my friend Camila, and she was from Texas. So that was a very interesting aspect too. I feel like I almost got more culture shock from that than actually being in Latin America. So
I can say kind of the same thing with that. So when I went to Chile for the semester, we were from around the place, so we were all pretty regionally connected. There wasn't anyone who was particularly isolated. There were a lot of kids from the Pacific Northwest, and not like Seattle, Portland, but like Washington State.
Oh, wow.
In that kind of area. And I remember talking with them, and they were like, this is the first time I've ever spoken with a Midwesterner. Like, I've never been to the Midwest. I rarely have traveled outside of the Pacific Northwest, but also just the West in general. And that was almost more of a culture shock to me than meeting Chileans and talking with Chileans. And that, how do you not know anything about the Midwest or have never met people from the Midwest? Because I feel like we're in a lot of places all over the place. But then again, that's from me growing up in the Midwest, being a Midwesterner, that like centric perspective. And yeah, I learned a lot with that. So I'm glad you kind of had something similar too, of not only learning about Argentina, but like, man, parts of the US too, and just like the cultures of that. It's a lot more in depth than we think.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting for me. It was funny, like one of my best friends on the program, like he said he couldn't even point to Iowa on a map, which I thought was really
It do
hilarious.
be like that.
And one of my other friends was like, Iowa City, that's not a real place. So I think just kind of funny things like that.
Man.
It hurts. But
That really hurts. And also, there's not one Iowa City, there's 2 Iowa cities, because I'm pretty sure the other one is in Texas.
Yes, I think I've heard this.
There's one in Texas to go along with Missouri City. That's in Texas. I do know Missouri City, Texas exists. But yeah, that hurts that Iowa City's not even a real place. Like, come on.
It's really funny because you're like, oh, I'm from Iowa. I go to the University of Iowa in Iowa City. And I think that kind of just adds fuel to the fire too. But
I mean, when you put it like that, it does sound kind of fake. I'm not even going to lie. It does sound kind of fake.
Yeah. But I don't know. It was all a good time. They were lovely people, had the best friends. So
That's good that they were eventually accepting of the fact that Iowa is real and you are, in fact, a real person from there.
I am.
But with your class experience, talk a little bit more about just the class experience of, again, to me, it sounds like you're sitting in there and just having a TED Talk a couple days a week for an entire semester.
Yeah.
But what was it like to be in those classes? What did they expect from you, and what did you have to do for them, for it?
Yeah. Honestly, compared to other study abroads, again, from people I've talked to, I feel like mine was a little bit more academically rigorous, I would say. We had a lot, it was very classroom focused. And it wasn't like, it was kind of a TED Talk or like a lecture situation. However, we did always have the opportunity to ask questions. They encouraged participation. I got often a little nervous, but I wouldn't participate as much. But I was so interested in hearing these people because they were notable researchers, activists. Like, it was such a unique and, like, something that is so amazing that I got to experience, that I reflect on every day. And I'm like, wow, that was wild. So, yeah, so we had our class periods, and they would often be like, we would have classes for 3 weeks. We went on an excursion to the south for about 2 weeks.
2 weeks? Oh my word.
Yeah. So we hit 2 cities. So it was parceled out, but like, yeah, a week and a half, maybe 10 days. We'll say 10 days. And then we would have class for another like 3 weeks. And then we went to the north, and then we had class for 2 weeks. And then we had a month where we did either an internship or an independent study project, which is also a unique thing that is specifically SIT. So yeah, you could pick whether you wanted to do an independent study project that had to do with Argentina, Argentine history, or you would be placed with an internship organization and work with them for a month.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I want to get into kind of the last bits of that later,
Yeah,
because I didn't
course.
even know that. That sounds like such an amazing opportunity that they
Yes.
gave you. But were your classes in Spanish, or were they in
Yes.
English? Okay.
Completely in Spanish, yeah.
So how did you feel with the Spanish thing? Because you obviously have experience with that before. It's something that you study.
Yeah.
But again, learning it in a classroom here and
Yes.
actually being there is a very different experience. So what was that like for you, especially because you're on such heavy, hard-hitting topics too?
Yeah. I honestly was so terrified. Like, before I went, I was doing my Duolingo. Little did I know, whatever. Like, it helped, but like not that much. So I did that, and I was trying to like get into it, and they sent us some articles, like prep articles, just some bits on history and stuff before we went. And I remember trying to read them and being like, Mom, I can't go. I can't go. I'm so scared. And I cried on the orientation call before we went, just because of like, I thought I couldn't do it. So anyway, we get there. I was still scared. They started like English, Spanish, like transitional period. So the first week we were actually in a hotel, and we got
Man,
to...
they had you moving
really
this
were.
whole time, weren't you?
Yeah, we really were. Like, it was nonstop. It truly was nonstop. But yeah, so we were in the hotel. They did Spanglish for the first week or two. So we did a week of Spanglish like in our orientation, because like we had to understand what was going to happen to us. And then they did another week of Spanglish, and then we slowly transitioned into just Spanish. And sometimes they would be like, did you understand? And then they were like, we could do it in English. And so if it was needed, they would do it and do their best to do it in English, like for really important things. So that's kind of how that transition was. The intro week, I was very scared as well. I'm kind of just an anxious person too. So,
And well, you're taking such a huge step
yes,
is the thing.
Yeah. And I think something that's really important for me that I try to standardize in my life is like, I am scared, or I can be scared, but I'm going to do it anyway. So that's something that I had like in the back of my head during all of this. So I would practice my Spanish, and my 2 roommates in the hotel like ended up being 2 of my best friends, which was just like such, I don't know, luck or blessing, I don't know, but it was really cool. And we were all kind of in the same boat with our Spanish, and we were like really scared, and I was like, okay, so like I'm not alone, like they understand. But a lot of people had a lot of like prior knowledge and also immersion in it growing up, or previous study abroad experience. that let them be very good. So that was kind of intimidating. But eventually I think I just learned that, okay, this is helpful. Like, everyone's here to support each other.
Well, and also when y'all are going out, they're the ones who get to do all the talking. You don't have to do anything.
Exactly. And for that, I am grateful. But I definitely like improved so drastically with my Spanish. I think by so I was there February through June-ish. It was like 3.5 months. And I was improving drastically, especially in the last month during my independent study. But yeah, we would be immersed every day. We tried to have a rule where we would only speak in Spanish to each other when we were in our home base, which was called Sedes. That's where our classroom was. But yeah, I think we all grew a significant amount. Obviously, you get what you put into it. And sometimes fear does hold us back. But I think that I really grew so much in my Spanish abilities and was so grateful for that. And my host mom, she pushed me a lot. She was a very much so a tough love type of woman. But she also like helped me grow a lot in my Spanish skills. So
normally I would save this kind of for the end when talking about advice, but I want you to touch on it since you did bring it up. You said you were so nervous, even as you were getting on the plane, as you were down there, and those nerves of like you were excited for this, you wanted this, but that gripping anxiety. What do you have to say to people who think, what if I don't step on the plane? Maybe I shouldn't have done this, or maybe I shouldn't do this.
Yeah. I think the most important thing you can do is just keep doing it anyway. Like, and I know that's such a daunting thought, but if you force yourself to take part in an experience that is once in a lifetime, you will almost never regret it. You're not going to have any regrets about studying abroad. If the anxiety is what is holding you back, like, you will not have regrets if you push yourself. So I think that's just important to remind yourself you will be okay, you will grow, you will learn. That is the point of studying abroad, is pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and to learn and to come back here with new experiences and ideas and ways to give back to your community and society too. So
just keep pushing forward and understanding that, this opportunity is not going to come back.
Yeah, exactly.
Again.
Exactly. And that's what I had in the back of my mind. I was like, okay, I just need to enjoy it. Because it wasn't the easiest thing in the world. It was not. So I think it was just very important. I really prioritize gratitude, which is not something I'm super great at all the time. But that was something I was like, okay, like, I'm here, like, I'm supposed to be here. I deserve to be here, like, stuff like that. So.
And I like what you said, too, about getting out what you put into it and really taking ownership of that.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I try to give to other people is really like, once you're down there, you control your own destiny of how much enjoyment you're going to get on this. Because you can sit in your, host residency with your host family. You can go to class. You can do nothing. Or you can take the time to, again, like you said, expand, to learn, to speak to people, to meet with new people, to have these experiences, be driven by what you are doing there, and you will get so much out of it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That, to me, I find kills the anxiety, too. Because before I went to Chile, I was so nervous, even though I had just spent a summer in Spain, basically as like a prepper, if you will, for going to Chile. I was unbearably nervous before I went there. And after we had touched down and I got into it, and I realized, because the routine is big too.
Yeah.
But like, as soon as those first few days of confusion were over, that routine set in, and I realized what I was able to do, that killed all the anxiety and the homesickness just right out.
Yeah.
And I never looked back.
Yeah. And you have so much autonomy too. Like, you can make the decision to do what you want. You can meet new people, you can make new friends, you can explore new places, and you all are also like, this is kind of a first introduction to being like an autonomous adult. Even if you're with a host family, like, they do like spend time with you, but you're kind of still like on your own in a sense.
And there's no pressure too that comes with how much or how little you're able to do that.
Exactly.
In my opinion, I would say you need to go out and do absolutely everything within reason, of course, but do absolutely everything. But there's no limits on how much you're able to do that. So you don't have to feel the pressure of being like, well, oh, I need to be up to this amount, or I need to be up to this amount, or I'm doing too little, or I'm going out too little. It's like you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was also important to like know when you needed rest, but also if you're just teetering on, oh, should I go do this thing? I remember there was a moment where I was unsure. I was like, oh, I don't know if I should go to like this tango class like with a bunch of people my first week, and I was scared to just like leave my house because I was like, oh, I don't know how much time I should be spending with my host mom. It was like the first couple days, and she was like, go, and I was like, okay, Fabiana, I will go. But yeah.
Well, I hope that you are proficient in tango coming out of that.
Oh, definitely not, but but definitely probably better. I don't know.
So real quick, just touch on the host family experience, because you
Yes.
were in a hotel at
Yes.
first, but then mainly in a host family, I would assume, for the rest of the way out.
Yeah. So we were in a hotel for the first week, and then obviously the host families don't come on excursions. So when we were in hostels for those 2 different periods. So I lived with one woman. Her name was Fabiana. She was very interesting. She was fun, and she was single, and she was very independent as well, I would say. And she was very assertive, which I think is another thing within Argentine culture. Like they're very open with like their feelings and everything, which I think was beneficial to me to get myself out of my comfort zone. And she would just tell it to me straight up, which was very helpful. Just like any advice, like if there was like drama in the program or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, Fabiana, like what do we do? And preface, I was never in the drama, but you know, you're always on the outskirts.
Please, you're representing Iowa. Come on, make us look good.
So it was a beneficial experience. It was very unique for me. It was also kind of felt similar to like growing up, because it was me and my mom like growing up, and I feel like that was kind of just like a parallel that was interesting to have while I was like across the equator. So I don't know, it was a beneficial experience. I think that all my friends like had such good experiences. I know one of my friends, her and her host mom like were literally like mother-daughter. Like she would do her hair, and they would like talk about drama and life, and it was quite beautiful. So
That's awesome. Shout outs to Fabiana, man.
literally.
I don't know you, but you sound amazing.
She was funny, yeah.
So let's keep it moving. Let's talk about being in Argentina, what life was like in BA. Because for you, again, completely new place to anywhere you had ever been before. And it's a city of, what is it, like 11-ish million people too?
Yeah.
Huge place.
Very big.
What's it like being in BA? What's the Argentine life like?
I loved it. Even though it is such a huge city, I think that it's parceled out so much into the different neighborhoods that you kind of have like that smaller neighborhood feeling within your neighborhood that doesn't make it feel like a bustling city situation. We had Spanish classes. I don't think I mentioned that, but part of our classwork was Spanish, and we would travel to a university for the Spanish classes. The teachers were contracted through SIT, and we took classes downtown. And so that was a little more of like a city vibe, but still it never felt like a New York type experience. But yeah, I loved just walking around. I often found little libraries. When I was working a lot in the last month, there was a little library a couple blocks away from my house that I absolutely loved. And I think just like the small little cafes on every corner. And I don't know, there were a bunch of fun, like there was this one bar that we always went to too. That was super fun, and it was just kind of like our spot. And I had 2 neighborhood friends that were my closest friends, and we always met at Kopi Cafe, which was a chain, but there was one in our neighborhood that was like ours, and we were there way too often. So it was really nice. I really found like a community and home feeling there. So
what was the food game like? Usually when it comes to Argentine food, people just go to steak and that's it. And Argentine steak is amazing, but what is some of the other game we need to be put on to?
So, fun fact, I do not eat red meat, which was a really interesting experience to...
Because I'm sure you had so many people being like, yo, you got to try the steak. Like, you have to have the steak. Yeah. The steak is amazing.
And I was like... And honestly, we weren't presented with that many opportunities to, like, have barbecue. But which was interesting. But we had a couple where when we were at one of the hostels, they made barbecue for us and there was chicken. I ate chicken. It was really good. So I don't know. Barbecue chicken in Argentina was really good. I could vouch for that. But yeah, I'm a very simple person, I feel like, to please as far as food goes. But I honestly, it was very, very European. Like, a lot of people don't know, I feel like, that Argentine, specifically BA food, is very, like, bland, very Italian. But, like, Italian with, like, no flavor, I guess, if that makes sense. No hate, because I love it. But, yeah, a lot of, like, fun Italian places that, like, me and my friends would go to. But, yeah, very European influenced. I loved a corn empanada. I only had it, like, twice, but I still remember it. Corn and potato empanadas were very good. And, yeah, I don't know. I honestly...
As in, like, the empanada was, like, the shell was made out of corn, or it was filled with corn?
No, it was filled with corn.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
It was so good. It's very Iowan coded.
Yeah, because, I mean, the neighbors across the mountain range out in Chile, like, I love empanadas. Chilean empanadas were awful because they had ground beef in them.
Oh,
and not seasoned in, like, a good way. Mushrooms, hard-boiled eggs, and olives with pits in it. And I hate olives.
Oh.
And then, you bite into one and you hit an olive and the olive pit. First try, I was like, this is disgusting.
Oh, no.
So hearing the empanadas between different countries is always so funny, because Argentine empanadas, I've never heard of, like, corn or potato-filled ones.
They were, like, specialty, though. Like,
okay.
I only had them, like, once or twice when me and a friend and their host mom and my host mom had dinner. That was funny. But that's when their host mom brought corn and potato empanadas. I was like, gosh, like, where have these been? Because, like, we got empanadas, but we had the chicken with, like, the boiled eggs. And I liked those. I liked an empanada.
But you were like, we've been starving out here on bland Italian food and chicken for months, and now you show me these?
Yeah, no, I think they also lived, like, in a more northern part of town. So, like, maybe that was part of it. But I don't know, like, if there was a good, like, specialty empanada place. But I don't know. I enjoyed all the food, but I think people think that it's a little more, like, involved than it is. Because when often I tell people, like, they ask, oh, how was the food? And I was like, well, like, I don't think they're not very well known for their food. Like, it's pretty
steak. And then after that, you really got to look.
Yeah. It was funny, actually, because every time that I would not be home for dinner, and I told my host mom, because she kind of made fun of me for not eating red meat, she was like, oh, I'm going to have my carne tonight. And I was like, yes, Fabiana, like, enjoy, because I would not be there. And it was really funny.
As someone who enjoys Argentinian steak, I would be like, all right, I hope Anna's going out tonight because I want Argentinian steak. No, that's total respect on your decision for not eating red meat or anything like that. I will say you are missing out, but the funniest thing to me is, again, like, other than the steak, you have to look so hard to find other Argentine quote-unquote food, because I was in Amsterdam for a little bit over the summer, and every corner had an Argentine steakhouse
really interesting
on it. Oh yeah, I was like, why Amsterdam? ? But every corner, Argentine steakhouse, Argentine, like, cow meat, beef, steak, tail, hoof, whatever kind. They put the whole cow in there.
Awesome.
But they didn't really have anything else, and I was like, well, that's not exactly what I'm here for. I just want the steak. But yeah, that is, because even I didn't know that of the. Not really a whole lot else other than bland Italian food.
Which maybe I want to preface, maybe I did not explore to the full extent that I could have as far as, like, more niche food options. But I would just say, like, as a whole, that's kind of the funny part, I guess, or what people think is, like, oh, it's going to be, like, spicy or stuff like that, I guess, which is just not the norm. And also, though, speaking of food, we had some amazing soups made for us by indigenous communities that we got to visit, which was such a privilege and so cool and so delicious too. I think those were probably one of my highlights, was the food that we got to enjoy with those communities as well. So
what'd they put into the soup?
It was like potato and vegetable and chicken. It was so good. And I love soup. I'm a soup girl. So.
Did it clear out your sinuses too?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't remember. I think I was pretty healthy too in Argentina, which was good. Not the case for everybody, but
That's amazing that you were able to be mostly healthy throughout the whole thing. Because I got, in the middle of me being in Chile, I got just murdered with a sinus infection that I picked up while I was in Uruguay. And it lasted for like a month. And it was hard for me because I don't know how the air is in BA, but it's so dry in Santiago.
Yeah.
And so my nose every day for a month was just bleeding so bad from the sinus infection. It was not fun.
Yeah.
Like the actual being sick lasted less than a week, but just the long term of it.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so frustrating.
I'm sure. Yeah. I was very lucky in my bill of health. I had friends who were not as lucky, but yeah, I was very grateful. I think honestly the air in BA helped me be healthier somehow. I don't know if that's true, a conspiracy maybe, but I feel like it was humid, I think, from what I remember. But yeah.
Lots of smoke in Rio de la Plata water just
fixes
the immune system.
It really does.
So let's talk about your traveling a little bit. I want to ask just outright, did you ever get the chance to go over to Mendoza on the west side? Because that's the only part of Argentina I've been to, was Mendoza.
I unfortunately did not. A group of my cohort did get to go. Some people ran the marathon. Which was taking
I did not
place.
know that they had one. Okay.
Yeah. And so they had like 10 people, our group, and then a different SIT group, public health, that was also taking place in BA. They like became friends and went and like ran this marathon together. And some people just went to watch, but I also it was kind of during the middle of our like study projects, and I just didn't, I think, have the bandwidth to make that journey. It was also a lot of people, I feel like, so it could have been a little stressful, but it looked really fun, and the pictures were amazing, and lots of wine was brought back.
Mendoza wine is amazing.
Yes, I've heard, but I thought that was really cool that they got to go. I did get to go to Iguazu Falls for 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
We squeezed it in the middle of our presentations and our projects. I was literally working on it was like a mini thesis, and I was working on it, like woke up at 7 a.m. the day we went to the park, and then was working on it in the airport. Like it was very much so a grind, but that was a very, very cool experience. Like one of the best days of my life, hands down. So many butterflies. And I love butterflies. So that was very cool. And rainbows and waterfalls. So what more could you ask for? I don't know.
She'd say, yeah, I'm going to the waterfalls just for the butterflies, you know?
Yeah. Honestly, kind of. They would like land on you, and it'd be so cool and cute and fun. So many, like the most I've ever seen.
So where did you go then when you went up to the north?
Yeah, so that was with our entire cohort. We went to Salta, Jujuy, and then we went down to Rosario, which is just about 4 hours north, like driving from BA. So we flew to Salta, spent 3 days there, went to Jujuy, spent 4 days there, went down to Rosario on plane, and then spent 3 days there as well.
Are those towns up in the north, was it anywhere close to like Paraguay, or what kind of was there to see?
So it was like very close to the mountain range, and so it was super dry too. I think it was up in like the corner-ish. It wasn't super close to the border, but pretty close to the border with both Chile and I'm pretty sure it's Paraguay too. So it was very cool to be up there. We met with a lot of NGOs while we were up there. There was an indigenous women's NGO that got women to work in different like textiles. So that was very cool. And we got to go on a lot of hikes too, just to experience. It was a beautiful scenery everywhere. So that was really cool. Also very good corn. I don't remember the name of them, but it was like corn, but like a big, like kind of pie almost. And it was so good. And that was also one of my favorite foods.
High praise, because we know ball about corn. And so
we do.
If they got good game recognizes game with it.
Yes, so true. Yeah.
So then when you guys went to the south, how far into, I'm assuming Patagonia, did you go? Did you go all the way to Ushuaia?
We did not. That was one thing that I think that I wish I would have done by myself or on a solo trip. or even Calafate, but we went to Esquel and Bariloche, where we got to experience, which are pretty kind of on the mid-north end of Patagonia, I would say. But Esquel is very kind of remote town. That's where we learned about like the anti-mining like organization, and also we went to Bariloche, and that's where we met with a lot of I think it was 2 or 3 indigenous communities. And so that was kind of our focus, was like focusing in on the Mapuche population and talking with them. And we also got to explore a lot, and Bariloche is located on a big lake, so that was really pretty, and a lot of people got to go swimming, and it was a very hot spot tourist destination, Bariloche. And so much ice cream. That was another thing I forgot to talk about with food, but I think I ate ice cream. I did every single day in Bariloche, banana split ice cream.
Yes.
So good. The best ice cream I think I'll ever have ever.
Yes. So I, in the previous episode, was talking about Chile, and we talked about the Argentine banana split ice cream. Because when I was in Mendoza, there was this ice cream joint we went to because it was well into the 90s, and they had banana split ice cream. I don't usually like banana flavored things, but I was like, you know what? Give it a try. Best ice cream I have ever had. Oh my word. 4 days in a row went there and got banana split ice cream.
Yup. No, the exact same thing in Bariloche. And then when we got home, we found out that there was the same, now I'm not going to be able to remember the name of it, but we found out that there was the same ice cream place, and we went there so many times. So banana split almost every time. You could mix and match sometimes, so you could get 2.
But why do it when perfection is right there?
I know. So that was like, that was honestly every single day in Bariloche. It was great.
That's crazy that you two are
that
on
is
game
awesome.
about the banana split ice cream.
I do love bananas, Anna Banana. So
Anna, it's too easy.
It is too easy.
How many handles of different social media and online things did you have of that when you were a kid?
Honestly, so many. Still one of my Gmails is banana. So
nice.
Yeah.
Anyone listening, you go to Chile, Argentina. I'm pretty sure in Uruguay they'd have it too, but like the banana split ice cream is real. Even if you don't like banana split flavored things or banana flavored things, you have got to try this ice cream.
Yeah, it's the best thing I think I've ever had. Yeah.
My other favorite one, I don't know if they had this in Argentina. They had it in Chile. Inca Cola. Do they have Inca Cola?
I don't know. I don't think so. Or at least I haven't experienced it.
Okay, so maybe it was just in like Peru, Chile, that area, but they had Inca Cola flavored ice cream, and that stuff was really, really good.
Wow.
And I would like to go back and get Inca. I guess I could make some because like you can buy Inca Cola here from Trader Joe's, freeze it, put it in a thing, whatever, make it into ice cream. Doesn't count because like if you're not in Peru having the Inca Cola ice cream.
It's about the experience. It's about the friends.
It doesn't taste the same, you know? So you went to the north, you saw good things. You got to meet and see a lot of good things. You were doing a lot of like reason-based tourism, tripping, those kinds of things. You went to the south, same thing, even though you're in a touristy location. How did it feel just being able to take these trips with this dedicated purpose in mind?
Yeah. I think for me, again, I just like was so in awe, honestly, that I got to be doing this at all. And it was such a finite experience too. And I just tried to soak it all up. Obviously, when we're visiting with indigenous communities, being as respectful as I can, listening, and then being able to reciprocate and thank them, and also like be able to tell their stories in a different format. I know that's what they asked for in forms of reciprocity, is carrying on their legacies and their stories. So yeah, it was very, very eye-opening. Again, just very grateful. Such a unique experience. I can't emphasize that enough.
How are you going to go? And again, I kind of wanted to put this till later, but I think it's important we just touch on it now. How are you continuing to just hold on to what you've learned from those very specific experiences, and them even wanting you to carry it on in a certain way?
Yeah, so I think for specifically my study project, that was kind of my area of interest. I am continuing that for my honors thesis for this year, and then I think eventually I'm hoping to go back to Argentina in some shape or form, whether that's through Fulbright or just finding a teaching job, and then eventually going on to get my PhD in international social work, something that has to do with my project, which I could explain now or later. I don't know.
Well, yeah, let's do it now.
Okay.
Talk about the final, like, what was it, fourth, fifth of the program?
Yeah.
And you were doing this project. So what was that like? What did you decide on? How did you come to it?
Yeah. So my project it's kind of a mouthful, but it was analyzing and exploring how the mental health of children who were appropriated and given to military families during the last dictatorship, and how they're doing now and how their mental health was affected, and what was done to help children be reinstated to their proper identity and family, which is a very heavy topic.
Yeah. Did you get the chance to watch, not to interrupt, but the movie La Historia Oficial, the official story?
Yes.
I could go on for hours about how amazing that movie is, but
It was heart-wrenching. Yeah, it was very good. And
did you use it as like a source or like a base for some of the stuff you did? Because it's right on the money.
Yeah, I watched it as my like intro, I guess, kind of per se, to my research, just to get kind of like, even like it is, because it is like a historical fiction, like a retelling, to kind of get kind of an understanding of what I would be diving into. And I got into this topic because I knew I wanted to do something with my social work background and interests, but also had such an interest in history. And honestly, again, we go back to Ana Laura. She, the best, miss her. But she guided me kind of to this topic. She was like, these are your interests. I'm going to set you up with Ana Maria Carrega. And she is a psychologist, an activist who has experience within the dictatorship herself, as well as her mother was an activist, worked to get Ana Maria outside of the dictatorship and eventually out of the country. And then her mother was ultimately killed by the dictatorship. So that was a crazy experience too, to be able to have her mentorship and guidance with all her history and knowledge. And so I was connected with her. And I was like, yeah, I need to do this. Like, I felt like very compelled to want to know these people's stories and tell them in the best way that I could. And yeah, Ana Maria is a lovely human. She was so kind to me, so helpful. She was really like guided me like in her best ability. And she also invited me, I guess I could talk about this now, but she invited me to a book signing of one of the grandchildren who had been reinstated to his proper identity in 2023, I believe. And I think he was in his late 30s when he found out his true identity, which to me is just like such a wild concept. But yeah, so I was taken with her. Like, she brought me to this event. I got to interview him, talk to his father, and I met his brother. And like all of these people who were gathering in community to celebrate him and his book and the fight for memory, truth, and justice, which is what they're constantly working toward, to remember and honor the 30,000 who are still missing. So yeah, again, just like very life-changing. It honestly did completely change my life. I have such a piqued interest in that now, just due to the personal connection, and I often do get emotionally invested in things. So I think that really just being able to compile something that made Ana Maria proud, and also I interviewed the grandchild, his name was Daniel, and then also Elsa Pavon, and she was a grandmother who helped get her granddaughter reinstated to her rightful care when her daughter and her granddaughter and her son-in-law were taken. A lot of information and kind of running in circles, but talking to those people, and I also talked to other people too who helped me compile this paper, but they really stick with me still, to be able to have the trust that they put in me too, to carry their stories. And I was able to really connect with Elsa, and we were just like, she invited me to her home. She's in her 90s. So it was amazing that she even let me do this with her. So I think that really gave it purpose, and was such a special experience to be able to do that. So yeah, I hope that made sense, kind of.
Well, it did. I would just say, can you give a brief rundown, background on why reinstating people to, or figuring out people's identities, giving people's families back, for people who don't know what happened?
Yeah, so there was a string of dictatorships in Argentina and the whole Southern Cone, but I specifically focused on the final one, and it was from 1979 to 1983. And what the military would do, they would take activists who often they believed were aligned with communist ideals, and they would kidnap them, basically. And often these people had children, and they often targeted women who were pregnant as well. So Daniel, the grandchild that I interviewed, he was in his mom's belly, I guess is the best way I could put it, when she was taken by the dictatorship. So they would keep these women alive until they gave birth to their babies, and then if a military member or someone associated with the military wanted a child and couldn't have one for some reason, or just wanted one, then they would take them from the activists they would take them to these detention centers or camps, I guess, and keep them there. And then they would deliver the babies and give them to the military families. And there's an ongoing effort to reinstate the rightful identities of these children who were taken, that's like more than 40 years ago now. And yeah, and then they would eventually, the people in the camps, they would sedate them in a sense, I guess, and take them on death flights and dump them into the river. And so it is a very, very, very hard topic, and a very hard thing to share, especially too, I think, with a foreigner. And so that was something that I just really was grateful that they put their trust in me to tell their stories. And yeah.
I think that's a perfect just background and a reason why sometimes you should go to places like this. There's so many safe places or things that you can do while studying abroad, but the real growth comes from really digging into the history from a non-U.S. perspective and seeing for yourself the havoc wreaked upon some of these countries by U.S. policies, by U.S. actions, because the U.S. funded this dictatorship.
Yes.
And put these operations and things into place so that they could do this. And that is where growth as a human being comes from, and finding that empathy. Because again, last episode talked about Chile, talked about all of the stuff with Pinochet in Chile, and it was this, not the same thing, but basically the same thing if you want to generalize it in Argentina. And you could have read that in a history book. I could have read that in a history book, and we glance over it and we say it's a statistic, it's sad, but it's whatever. But the fact that you were able to interview someone who was literally taken and only is just now, 40 years later, finding out who they are, you can't get that from a book.
No. And being able to have that, like, personal people-to-people connection, and, like, I hung out with them. Like, that's also just kind of wild to me. Like, I got to have personal conversations with them, and I'm still starstruck by my advisor, like Anna Maria. She's wild, and I keep up with her because I don't know, I truly care about her very much. And also Elsa Pavon, she was one of the abuelas de la Plaza de Mayo, which is the grandmothers of the May Plaza, who were organized to get their grandchildren back, essentially. So that was also just like, wow, she was one of these, like, founding members, and she's talking to me. Like, why? And I think that's the whole point, is to just make sure people understand and know the truth, and get those who have the empathy to show to them to do so, I guess.
Yeah. And of course, not everyone's going to have the will, drive, ability, means to want to go to Argentina to study these things or look at these things. But I would highly recommend to anyone listening, you know, just not even for going to Argentina, but just in general, watching the movie, the official story. That is one of the most powerful movies I have ever seen.
Yeah.
And the final 10 minutes of that movie, I could not believe it.
It's, and like to think like that is only a snapshot of like what happened to so many people is quite moving.
I cannot recommend that enough. Well, I want to use some of that and just transition into, we've talked about little snippets and pieces of different advice for different things that you've had, but what is your biggest piece or pieces of advice to people who are, well, first of all, you know, wanting to take that step, studying abroad, but second of all, maybe thinking about language, Argentina, and then studying those hard things or like doing those hard things? What is the advice package that you can give?
Yeah. I think if you have the motivation and you want to do it, and if you're willing to put your own perspectives aside, your own beliefs aside, and you're willing to just put yourself fully into it, all you can do is just take the leap. I think if you have the privilege to be able to study abroad and like take that step, and go experience a different culture, I think, my biggest advice is honestly just do it.
Just do it. That
trademark.
I exactly. I try with all of the people that I talk to on here to really find a more nuanced take and approach on the advice that we can give people, but it always just comes down to just do it.
Yeah, just do it. Be courageous. It'll pay off. Like it's simple as that, honestly.
And you get out what you put into it. Like, it is going to pay off. So just do it, man. I wish this could have happened 40, 50 years ago so I could have trademarked that for for studying abroad. But just go out and do it. And for Argentina too, why would you pitch specifically Argentina?
Oh, there's such a rich history of culture. There's so much natural beauty. The people are so welcoming and fun and nice. I would say definitely too, if you're a little nervous maybe about going anywhere other than Europe, that would be a good step to take, I think, to push yourself just a little farther. Nothing wrong with Europe. I love Europe. But I think if you're on the cusp, and you just want to try something new. Yeah, and it's just a beautiful country with so much rich history, and you will find everything you're looking for, I think. So
go to Argentina. It has everything. Now, as someone who was in Chile, has so many Chilean friends, it almost pains me to say that, but no, it's true. Argentina, it's a great place. It's a good place. It's calm. It's got a lot for everyone. Highly recommend. So now I want to just turn it over to you and say, what is Anna O'Connor doing right now? What does she want the world to know about what she's doing, what she's involved in?
Yeah. Wow, gosh. Big question. I am a senator in student government at Iowa. I'm also the co-director of the Social Work Student Association. I'm doing dance marathon this week, so that'll be interesting. And
are you going to tango for it?
Maybe. Who knows? I probably will now. But yeah, and then I spent a lot of time working at Global Ties Iowa as the program coordinator, and I'm traveling to DC in a few weeks to for an emerging leader conference. So
that sounds like an awesome opportunity if you are in the social work, social justice, interested in Global Ties, dance marathon, all that kind of stuff. Hit Anna up. I will make sure her contact information is there, or interested about Argentina too. You know, that's just at the bottom of the list, all the cool things that you're doing. So my last question to you is, what is the one song that defined your study abroad experience, and is there a story behind it?
Okay, so I have two, but one's like an actual one and one's kind of a funny one. But the first one is Supercut by Lorde. because I just think not in like a relationship sense, but just as a whole picture, it's just kind of represents like how finite study abroad is. And like when you think back, just like, oh, what a time, you know? So that was my funny one. But then my real one is Hice Todo Mal by Las Lingas Menores. And it's just kind of a song that's like, you know, everything's going to be okay. Like, let's look on the bright side. So I think that's a really important mindset to have during study abroad, just so that you're able to soak everything up with a positive mindset.
I could not have thought of a better way to have closed it than what you just said right there. So I think I'm just going to leave that with what you said right there.
Lovely.
That's amazing. But it has been really great talking with you,
Yeah,
Anna. I
thank
am
you so
so
much.
glad to have had you on, to have talked about Argentina. And yeah, thank you all for listening. We will see you all wherever and whenever in the world next time.
Woo.